What if the calmest person you know was incapable of empathy? Not that explosive person, not the obvious aggressive one, not the unstable one who loses control. I'm talking about calm, from balanced to rational, the one that never changes, never despair, never shows true guilt. There is a kind of emotional coldness that doesn't scream. She whispers, don't threaten. She watches, doesn't react. She calculates. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. For decades, the popular imagination constructed the psychopath as someone violent, out of control, visibly disturbed. But behavioral science reveals something very most disturbing. Many of them are socially functional, charming, articulated, respected. They work alongside you. They sit at the same table as you. They frequent your house. And you would never suspect it. The calm psychopath does not need to raise his voice to dominate an environment. He doesn't need physically intimidate. Its power lies in the absence of emotion, in artificial stability, in serenity that looks like maturity, but can actually hide an emptiness deep. Research in forensic psychology shows that psychopathic traits are not restricted to violent criminals. They can exist in corporate leaders, romantic partners, co-workers, people who have learned to imitate emotions with surgical precision. They study reactions. They decorate emotional responses. They adjust their behavior like an experienced actor. But inside, there is no echo, no guilt, no remorse, no genuine connection. And perhaps the most disturbing thing is this: they know exactly how you feel. Just they don't feel anything back. If you've ever felt like someone seemed too normal, maybe this video will help you understand why. Why? Because there is a huge difference between being emotionally stable and being emotionally empty. And this difference can go unnoticed for years. The calm psychopath does not show haste. He builds trust slowly. He listens with attention. He watches for vulnerabilities. And when you act, you are already several steps ahead. There is no impulsiveness. There is strategy. There is no explosion. There is calculation. The absence of external chaos creates an illusion of security. But the real danger is not. It's what's noisy. It's in what is too silent. How many times do we confuse coldness with maturity? How many times have we admired someone for not being shaken by anything? How many times do we call someone strong who maybe just doesn't feel it? What if the biggest warning sign is not anger, but absolute tranquility in the face of suffering of others? In the next block, we will dismantle the mask of normality. How does one learn to appear so human, without actually being one? The calm psychopath is not born knowing how to manipulate. He learns. Observe from an early age that emotions are social tools. Realize that certain expressions open doors, that certain words arouse confidence, whereas a firm look conveys security. While most people feel first and react later, he does the opposite: analyze first, reproduce later. There is a concept in psychology called social mask. We all wear masks. At some level, we adjust behavior at work, with friends, in environments formal. This is healthy adaptation. But in the case of the psychopath, the mask is not a fit. It is replacement. There is no emotional self behind. There is only performance. He learns to smile at the right time. Learn to tilt your head when someone reports a pain. Learn to maintain just the right amount of eye contact to appear interested. Our calculated movements, rehearsed, tested, and they work. Because we trust emotional signals. We trust those who demonstrate balance. We trust those who do not despair. We trust those who seem sure of themselves. O calm psychopath understands this deeply. He doesn't need to be aggressive to dominate. It needs to be predictable. Research on psychopathic traits indicates that many of these individuals have high social cognitive capacity. They recognize emotions in others accurately. They identify fear, lack, insecurity. They know exactly where to play. What not possess is effective empathy, that ability to feel together. They understand the pain, but they don't share it. This difference is subtle and devastating. In conflict situations, while most people experience increased heartbeat, muscle tension, and emotional discharge, the psychopath tends to maintain physiological stability. He doesn't panic, don't lose control. This creates an invisible advantage. Imagine an argument. You are shaken. His voice wavers. Your thoughts speed up. On the other side, someone remains too calm, too rational, as if you were observing a scene, not living it. Who looks stronger? This coldness is often confused with emotional maturity. But maturity, it involves feeling and regulating. The psychopath doesn't regulate. It just doesn't feel the same shape. Many develop a skill called mirroring. Copy speech patterns, posture and values of the person in front. If you value family, he values family. He talks about ethics, he talks about principles. If you demonstrate vulnerability, it offers strategic understanding. It's not connection, it's data collection. The social mask is built on constant observation. They study the environment like a laboratory. They test limits with little lies, evaluate reactions, adjust the speech. Every interaction is a behavioral experience, and most disturbingly, they are rarely perceived as threatening. On the contrary, are described as centered, controlled, even admirable. Because our culture admires those who don't show fragility, who doesn't let themselves be shaken, who maintains composure under pressure. The calm psychopath embodies exactly this image. But there is a revealing detail. When someone suffers deeply before him, the answer is too correct. The sentence is too perfect. Something invisible is missing. Lack of heat. Foul, genuine micro-expression. It's like watching a flawless simulation, but slightly empty. You may have already felt this. A feeling that is difficult to explain. As if something doesn't fit completely. As if there was a microscopic delay between what was said and what should have been felt. This is mask noise. Over time, this constant performance becomes natural. Not because it became emotion real, but because it became a strategic habit. He doesn't need to try so hard. You already know which one's buttons press. And while you believe you are creating intimacy, he is mapping vulnerabilities. In the next block, we will go through this mask and observe what happens inside the brain of someone who doesn't feel guilt like you do. What does neuroscience reveal about this coldness? What if the absence of fear is precisely what makes these people so dangerously confident? Behind the mask, there is a brain that works differently. It's not a metaphor. It's biology. Neuroscience studies indicate that individuals with high psychopathic traits have reduced activity in the amygdala, the brain structure linked to processing fear, guilt, and intense emotional responses. This means that situations that would trigger alertness in you simply do not produce the same impact on them. Where you would feel anxiety, they feel neutrality. Where you would experience remorse, they analyze consequences. Guilt, for most people, is an internal break. She corrects, adjust, teach. For the calm psychopath, this break is weak or non-existent. Not because he doesn't understand rules social, he understands perfectly. But violating these rules does not generate discomfort, deep emotional. This changes everything. Imagine making important decisions without the burden of guilt, without the genuine fear of hurting someone, without the anguish that accompanies a lie. The mind becomes colder, more strategic, more free to calculate risks. MRI exams also point out differences in the connection between amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, a region associated with planning and executive control. In ordinary people, emotion and decision talk all the time. In psychopathic profiles, this conversation may be weaker. They understand that something is wrong, but they don't feel it's wrong. This distinction is essential. When someone cries in front of you, your body reacts before you even think. Your expression changes. Your breathing changes. There is an automatic emotional contagion. No calm psychopath, this response is reduced. He needs to decide to show reaction. It's not spontaneous. This explains why many seem incredibly serene in chaotic situations. Accidents, intense conflicts, emotional crises. While others enter a state of shock, they maintain clear reasoning. To some, this looks like leadership. For others, it seems excessively cold. If something here starts to make sense to you, stick with it until the end. What's next? It can change the way you observe people. There is also the issue of fear. Fear regulates social behavior. He stops us to exceed certain limits. In laboratory tests, individuals with psychopathic traits show smaller physiological responses to threatening stimuli, less sweating, less cardiac changes. Without intense fear, the risk calculation changes. What would be unthinkable for you may be just a variable for them. That's not means that everyone becomes a criminal. Psychopathy is a spectrum. Many channel these traits for competitive environments, business, politics, corporate leadership, but the absence of effective empathy remains there. And here comes something even more disturbing: the ability to observe emotions as a scientist observes data. They identify sadness, anger, passion. You know when someone is emotionally vulnerable, They know when someone is looking for validation, and they know how to use it. Because without the internal emotional weight, the mind is available for pure strategy. SE lying generates benefit, and calculated risk is low. The decision is simple. Manipulating makes you stronger. Social position, there is no deep internal conflict. Meanwhile, you feel, you hesitate, you ponder emotional consequences, you carry memories of past pain that shape your choices. They carry strategic memory. This difference creates an invisible asymmetry in relationships. You enter with emotion. They enter into analysis. You believe you are sharing vulnerability. They are evaluating usefulness. And yet, they continue to seem normal. Because they know that emotions are socially expected. Then they reproduce signals, correct expressions, suitable tones, synchronized gestures. But if you look closely, there is something almost imperceptible. A slight lack of depth in the gaze when the subject involves the suffering of others. An answer too impeccable. In the next block, we will understand how this internal coldness turns into manipulation silent in the real world. How does someone who doesn't feel guilt build trust so easily? And have you ever been analyzed by someone who never revealed their true intentions? Emotional coldness is not just an absence. She is a tool. When someone is not dominated by guilt, fear, or intense anxiety, there is room for something much more calculated. Control. The calm psychopath understands that power is rarely conquered by brute force. He is won over by silent influence. Manipulation, in this context, is not shouting orders. It is directing decisions without the other person notices. They start by creating connection. Not a deep, genuine connection, but a feeling affinity. They use value mirroring. Adjust body language. Agree with your initial beliefs. They make you feel like you've finally found someone who really understands. This is the first movement. Then comes the strategic listening phase. They let you talk. They encourage confidences. They ask questions that seem careful, but are mapping. Every insecurity revealed becomes stored information. Each shared trauma becomes an identified sensitive point. You believe you are being welcomed. They are building a playbook on you. Silent manipulation works because it is gradual. Small distortions of reality. Subtle comments that plant doubt. Seemingly innocent observations that weaken your self-confidence. Are you sure about this? Maybe you're exaggerating. I'm just trying to help you. Nothing aggressive, nothing explicit. Just small interventions that over time alter your perception. The calm psychopath rarely appears controlling at first. On the contrary, he offers autonomy, support, understanding. This creates emotional debt. You start to trust, depend. And then, when trust is consolidated, he begins to test greater limits. Little lies to see if you confront. Small oversights to measure your reaction. If there is no significant resistance, the behavior escalates. Everything is a test. They watch how you react to criticism, how you deal with rejection, how you seek approval. These answers reveal entry points. There is a concept called social predator. Unlike the impulsive predator, the predator social studies the environment, chooses targets based on perceived vulnerability, prefers situations where control can be maintained without exposure. In the workplace, this may mean taking credit discreetly, redirect responsibilities when something fails, build a reputation for stability, while others they seem too emotional. In relationships, it can mean alternating intense validation with distancing. Calculated. Create cycles of closeness and coldness that keep the other emotionally unstable and therefore easier to influence. Silence is also a tool. The calm psychopath knows that a lack of response can generate anxiety in others. He knows that momentarily ignoring can increase dependence. As you try to resolve the emotional discomfort, he watches. There is something deeply unsettling about this. The absence of internal conflict allows for intense focus. Total focus on external strategy. While you struggle with doubts, he maintains cool clarity. And when confronted, it rarely explodes. He rationalizes. Reshape the narrative. Invert. Papers. You can even assume a victim stance if convenient. Everything to preserve the control position. You start to question your own perception. Did he exaggerate? Did you interpret wrong? This is the most effective manipulation, the one that doesn't feel like manipulation. Over time, influence consolidates. Friends move away. Colleagues start to see it as a reference for balance. You increasingly depend on his validation to confirm your own impressions. And he remains calm. Always calm. There is no need for open aggression when psychological control is already established. In the next block, we will bring this dynamic to common everyday situations. How do these traits manifest in seemingly normal environments? And can anyone live with a calm psychopath for years, without ever realizing that is being driven? The calm psychopath does not live isolated in extreme scenarios. He is in everyday life. No. Bright office, at the team meeting, in the group of friends, in the relationship that, from the outside, it looks stable. In a professional environment, he is often seen as someone who is highly rational. Don't let's get carried away by conflicts, maintains a firm stance in times of crisis. As colleagues, they argue emotionally. He observes in silence. Then he says little, but he talks exactly what repositions the narrative in your favor. He understands hierarchy, understands ambition, and understands how to use the image of competence to climb steps. It can take on strategic projects, build selective alliances, and, when necessary, distance yourself from mistakes as if you had never participated. If something works, he was involved. If something goes wrong, he warns that he has already foreseen risks. There is no blame. There is repositioning. In romantic relationships, the pattern can be even more subtle. At first, he seems like the partner ideal. Pay attention. Gift. Interested. Listen intensely. Creates a feeling of connection rare. Do you feel like you've finally found someone who understands your pain and concerns? Dreams. But little by little, small changes happen. Critical comments disguised as "be careful," moments of emotional distance without clear explanation, switch between intense closeness and unexpected coldness. This oscillation creates confusion, and confusion breeds attachment. You try to recover the initial version of it, try to understand what you did wrong, while this measures your tolerance. See how far you can go. In friendships, the calm psychopath may take on the role of counselor. The one who always has a rational view, who rarely gets too emotionally involved. He could be the silent center of the group, maintaining an image of stability. But when conflicts arise, he knows exactly how to direct opinions. You can plant doubts about someone. It can discreetly reinforce rivalries. Everything looks like neutrality. The most disturbing thing is that many never realize it, because there is no obvious explosion. There is no frequent scandal. There is gradual wear and tear, a diffuse feeling of being analyzed. Not all cold behavior is psychopathy. It is important to distinguish clinical features from specific attitudes. People can be reserved, rational, introverted. Psychopathy involves a consistent pattern of manipulation, lack of effective empathy, and instrumental use of relationships. The difference is in the ongoing intention to control. While you invest emotionally, he invests strategically. As long as you feel guilt when hurting someone, he evaluates only practical consequences, and so they are rarely unmasked quickly. Leave no emotional trace. Intense. They don't create visible chaos all the time. They create silent dependence. Maybe you've ever felt that, around someone, you needed to mince too many words. What your vulnerabilities seem to be used against you in future discussions. That your insecurities were remembered at the exact moments to weaken him. This is the invisible pattern. They don't need to explicitly destroy reputations. They can only suggest. No, need to confront directly. They may just walk away at the moment when you most need. And when you finally question, the answer comes calmly, rational, convincing. You leaves the conversation with more doubts than certainties. Over the years, this dynamic can shape your self-perception. You start to doubt of your own intuition, and he remains serene. In the next block, we will face the most uncomfortable question of all. If these individuals are so socially integrated, can we really identify them? Or the greatest danger is not in recognizing them, but in never suspecting whoever seems perfectly normal. Perhaps the most disturbing thing about the calm psychopath isn't what he does, but what he doesn't feel. We live believing that we can recognize danger, that evil has a tense face, aggressive look, unstable behavior. We want clear signals, visible alerts. But what about when the danger is polite? When is it articulated? When he seems more emotionally stable than everyone around him? The calm psychopath does not need to hide in the shadows. It circulates in environments illuminated. It works. Lead, love, or pretend to love. He understands social rules better than many of us. It's just not guided by them internally. While you feel guilt when you hurt someone, it calculates impact. While you hesitate and from the possibility of harming someone, he weighs advantages. This does not mean that every cold individual is a predator. Not all serenity hide danger. But it does mean that extreme coldness and a consistent lack of empathy cannot. They are signs of strength. They are signs of something different. The biggest risk may not be coming across a violent psychopath. It's living with years someone who never felt genuine connection, but knew how to imitate it perfectly. And this leads us to deeper reflection. What defines humanity? Is it intelligence? Is it emotional control? Or is it the ability to feel pain for others, even when it weakens us? Empathy makes us vulnerable. It exposes us. It makes us hesitate. It makes us suffer together. And exactly why it is what keeps us connected. The calm psychopath may seem invulnerable, but perhaps this invulnerability is, in fact, true, a void, an internal silence where there should be an echo. If this content made you think differently about the human mind, sign up. Here, we explore what almost no one wants to see. And now I want to ask you a direct question. Have you ever met someone who seemed perfectly balanced, but whose presence generated a strange sensation, difficult to explain? Someone who never lost control, but also never showed emotion true? Comment below. Do you believe you have ever come across a calm psychopath? Or do you think is this type of person rarer than we think? Your answer may reveal something important. Because in the end, perhaps the scariest thing is not that they exist, but we learn to admire them. And while we look for strong, stable, and unflappable people, are we ignoring the quietest signal of all? The absence of humanity disguised as balance. And if the real danger is not in explosive anger, but in absolute tranquility in the face of suffering, perhaps the scariest thing is not identifying them. Maybe it's realizing it too late.